Resident Evil 5 Remake Magini should be treated like Ganados from RE4. The RE4 remake treated Ganados as a real threat, something the Resident Evil 5 remake had to do for its main rival, the Magini. The upcoming Resident Evil 5 remake will learn from the success of the Resident Evil 4 remake, especially in making its enemies more serious and terrifying. Magini from Resident Evil 5 and Ganado from Resident Evil 4 fulfill similar roles to the infected, but Magini lacks the level of fear that Ganado gave in the Resident Evil 4 remake. Resident Evil 5 Remake should focus on improving enemy AI and rely more on horror elements like Resident Evil 4 Remake to create a scary and immersive experience for players. Resident Evil 5 is believed to be getting a remake at some point, though Capcom has yet to confirm. The Resident Evil 4 Remake was a great fit for the company, as were the Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 remakes. The original fifth entry in the franchise was unfortunately one of the most controversial, and while the remake has a lot to improve on, there is an RE4 remake element worth noting in the RE5 remake. It was clear from the start that the Resident Evil 4 remake was going to be a bit more serious than the original. If the Resident Evil 5 remake is going to be successful, it's best to terrorize the Magini as much as the Ganados in the RE4 remake. Resident Evil 4's Ganados can easily be described as the game's zombie substitute. Granados can be said to be people infected by Las Plagas who slowly lose control and become violent. The parasites in question have effectively taken over the nervous systems, enslaving them to the dominant creatures encountered throughout the game. Magini from Resident Evil 5 played a similar role. Like the Granados, the Magini were the ones infected by Las Plagas. Specifically, the Plaga developed by Trisol was infected with types 2 and 3, which are said to be worse than Umbrella. This version of the parasite was able to infect humans faster due to the change and therefore spread much faster. There are two lessons Resident Evil 5 Remake can learn from Resident Evil 4 Remake when it comes to its main antagonist. The first is improving the eye. The enemies in the original RE4 aren't terribly designed, but they move very slowly towards Leon, allowing him to pick off his opponents from a distance. The remake, on the other hand, has significantly improved the AI of enemies, making them much more difficult opponents for players. Another lesson the Resident Evil 5 Remake learned from the RE4 Remake is that it relies more on the horror aspect. Magini and Ganados are both pretty scary on the surface, but they mostly serve as cannon fodder for players in the original. Resident Evil 4 Remake has increased the horror factor of its enemies and leaned more towards horror in expression, atmosphere and action. Also, that's what the RE5 Remake needs to do to find new ways to scare players. It is currently unknown what direction the remake will take. It is speculated that the Resident Evil 5 Remake will resemble the Resident Evil 3 Remake more than other parts. Considering the events of RE4 and RE5 and how close the enemies were, it's not hard to see what Ganados did to the Magini this time. Hopefully the RE5 remake will make the Magini smarter and give players something to fear for memories that aren't considered scary. There are rumors that Resident Evil 5 Remake is to be in development.